Welcome to the channel where chaos and insanity will always reign supreme. Welcome back to Dave's Dimension. Welcome back again for another video. Welcome back to Dave's Dimensions Flashback. This is a series where we revisit just awesome movies from the 80s and 90s and TV shows from the 80s and 90s. Personally, my personal favorites that I want to share with you guys that you may not be aware of. Now, growing up, this is a show that came out when I was in high school. We're going to talk about a little show called Sliders. It's S-L-I-D-E-R-S, Sliders. Now, Sliders was a Fox television series that debuted in 1995. It starred Jerry O'Connell, Reese Davies, I'm messing up his name, I apologize, Sabrina Lloyd, and also Clevant Derricks. Now this was kind of it had kind of a, not really Star Trek, but kind of Quantum Leap kind of mix of it all. It's the premise of the show was this: brilliant college student by the name of Quinn Mallory. He was trying to develop a way to create anti-gravity, but he stumbled across something much bigger. He stumbled across the ability to travel between dimensions. Now, this day and age, you guys have seen the Marvel movies, we've seen DC, you might be familiar with the term or with the phrase multiverse, okay? Think of it in this case. The multiverse is basically theoretically, every time you make a decision, okay, you're traveling forward on that path, that decision you just made, right? Well, now, imagine the other choices you didn't make. It's like rope, okay? A multi-strand rope, and every time there's a choice, another strand unravels. And that's a parallel dimension. That's a parallel world, you know? Think if Superman didn't land in the US, but he landed in Russia, okay? Think if, when they created traffic lights, red meant go and green meant stop. Okay, perfect examples. And the premise of this show is Quinn Mallory develops what he's called sliding, traveling to multiple Earths. Same Earth, different dimension. And that's part of the whole tagline of the show. Well, in the initial pilot, he tries an experiment on himself. He travels to a parallel world, and when he comes back, he finds that a couple of people are a little bit pissed off at him. People are a little ticked off because, while he was away, another version of him was on his Earth. Kind of ruffled some feathers, so his best friend, Wade Wells, and his college professor, Professor Maximilian Arturo, come to his home because he wants to apologize to them, but he shows them that he's found this way to travel between different worlds called sliding. He created a little timer, and this device will open up a gateway, a portal, a vortex, a wormhole to that other Earth. Now, he can't control where he's going to go, at least not yet. So he shows them that he's perfected a timing mechanism. So he can set it for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, on that other world, he would be automatically catapulted back to his Earth of origin, right? Pretty plain and simple. So he decides that he wants to show them, and they want to go on, they want to try it with him. But they're not too sure that there's enough power, so he cranks it up. Vortex becomes a little unstable, but that happens after they jump through the vortex. The vortex actually swings out of his house onto the road and swallows up a singer by the name of Rembrandt Crime Man Brown. Well, he gets swallowed up with his Cadillac, and all four arrive on an alternate Earth, one where there's a bit of an ice age going on, and there's these massive ice tornadoes. Well, Quinn has no choice. Either they try and chance being taken over by an ice tornado, or he prematurely activates the timer to create a wormhole. But by doing so, he corrupts all the data inside, and now they're lost. They are continuously jumping from Earth to Earth to Earth, hoping that the next slide will be the slide home. Kind of a quantum leap feel to it, don't you think? But they have no control what Earth they're going to wind up on or how long they're going to be there. The timer, use my remote control. The timer might say 30 seconds. The timer might say 30 days. It might say 5 days, 6 hours, 39 minutes. When it hits 0, they have to activate the timer and jump through the vortex, jump through the portal. If they don't, they usually use the term 29 years, but technically it's 28.8 years they'll be stuck on that Earth until the portal opens again. Okay? So you can see what kind of dire straits they're in. They could choose to stay on Earth or keep going on until they hit their home world, their Earth, what they call Earth Prime. Now, along the way, they are trying to keep their heads down, but they're also exploring all these different Earths. There's an Earth where, like you heard me use the term where green was stop and red was go. That's another example. Think of another Earth where women were the dominant workforce and men were the lesser sex. Okay? During the course of that, it ran for 5 seasons. 3 which were on the Fox network, and then Fox erroneously canceled it. But thankfully, Syfy channel, which is obviously a subsidiary and partner with NBC and Universal, scooped it up. So they saved it. Now, here's the problem, though. I'm going to show you guys a little something here. Now, this was the original cast. Levant Derrick, Sabrina Lloyd, John Rhys Davies, and Jerry O'Connell. Now, you guys should recognize Jerry O'Connell, okay? Jerry O'Connell's been around. I mean, he's appeared in so many great movies over the years. One of the earliest ones is actually Stand By Me with Corey Feldman, Will Wheaton, just River Phoenix. It's an amazing movie, okay? He was a bit of a chunky kid, so I kind of always liked Jerry O'Connell because he was a bit of a plumpy boy, but then he thinned out. Not so much with me, but you know, he was in a Canadian television series called My Secret Identity. He's appeared in so many movies. I mean, loved him in Sliders. Sliders is near and dear to my heart, but he's appeared in so many other things. I mean, you probably will know him from, I mean, he was on Crossing Jordan on NBC. He's done a ton of TV shows, but he's also been in a lot of movies like Jerry Maguire. I mean, we can go on and on. Fantastic actor. He even once played Herman Munster in a reboot of The Munsters. Short-lived as it was. I think it was called, I want to say 1313 Mockingbird. I could be mistaken. I'm sorry. But for the first 3 seasons, this was pretty much the cast. These 3 right here. Levant Derrick played Rembrandt Crime Man Brown, a soul singer who was trying to make a comeback. He was on his way to singing the national anthem at a baseball game when Wynn's vortex, his wormhole, scooped him up. Sabrina Lloyd, okay? She played Wade Wells. I had a crush on her back then. She went on after this show to appear on a ABC sitcom called Sports Night, which revolved around a sports night talk show. Okay? Now, John Rhys Davies, you should recognize him. I mean, this guy's been all over movies. I mean, most notably, I mean, he's obviously well known for the Indiana Jones movies. He appeared in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he also appeared in The Last Crusade. And of course, we know Jerry O'Connell. So, there we go. Now, throughout the course of the first 3 seasons, they explored many different worlds. They started to embrace more of the sci-fi trope, if you will. They came across a world where humans were basically no longer around, and it was ruled by what looked like androids. They embraced a lot of the sci-fi stuff, but they still would stay grounded for the most part. That is up until they came across a special 2-part episode where they came across an Earth that was facing an extinction level event. What's known as pulsars, basically fragments of a star that have broken apart, and they're kind of like a lighthouse, shooting rays of light, but that light is actually radiation, and it's about to take out the Earth. Well, they run into a military base where there's a scientist who's developing his own form of sliding, but it's not perfected. He makes a deal with the sliders. Help him fix this, fix his sliding, and help them find a new world. And he'll give them the ability to track wormholes, which might help Quinn and the others make it home. Well, I'm not going to spoil it if you guys are going to binge the show. By the way, this show is currently available for free on Peacock. That is the Peacock network, which is NBC and Universal streaming service. Now, there is a paid version of that streaming service, but you don't have to use that paid service to watch Sliders. That's what I've been binging it on. So, what happens is there's an event that happens where, unfortunately, Professor Arturo does not make it. He sacrifices himself in a tremendous fashion, and that's when we jump into a new cast. Carrie Werher joins the cast after John Rhys Davies leaves the show. I never really found out why he left the show. I think he wanted to work on other projects, or possibly focus on family, or just needed a break. You know, sometimes we need breaks from things. So she joins into the show, playing a character by the name of Captain Maggie Beckett. Her husband was the scientist that Quinn worked with to help save her world. Her world was the one facing the pulsar extinction events. Okay, she is a military career person. Okay, so she's hard-nosed, used to procedures and doing, having things laid out a certain way. That's not how the sliders do it. You slide by the seat of your pants. It's all improvising, which Quinn actually tells her in the previous episodes. Well, her husband is killed, and she's not too sure what to do with her life, so she signs up with the sliders, because it just so happens that the person who killed the professor, the person who killed her husband as well, is this mad colonel who now has a timer of his own, and he's sliding from Earth to Earth. So she signs up with the sliders to hunt him down and get revenge. Both her and Quinn have the same motive. They want to bring Rickman to justice. They want to get vengeance for the professor and also for her husband dying. So, and also there's a little bit of tension between these two. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a will they, won't they? And we kind of had that vibe for the first 3 seasons with Wade and Quinn, because they always had a little something going on, but it never, who knows? Never a right time, right place, especially when you're sliding to different dimensions. So, the show goes on, and we do get resolution with the Rickman situation, but at the end of season 3, there's a little bit of a cliffhanger, okay? After they they take out Rickman, or he takes himself out, I should say, Rembrandt and Wade, using Rickman's timer, which has Earth Prime's coordinates, by the way, they get to slide back home. Quinn is stuck back with Maggie, and he has his timer. They slide into it. They think that they're sliding to Earth Prime, but they don't. They wind up going to a different Earth instead. So now, the team is broken up. Fast forward to season 4. Well, Quinn and Maggie finally make it to Earth Prime, but find out that there's some bad guys that have taken over Earth Prime. Now, I forgot to mention that among all these different worlds, there's a world where there's a race known as the Cro-Mags. They have perfected interdimensional travel, almost appear alien-like, and they have taken over Earth Prime. Quinn and Maggie arrived at Earth Prime. She's had some breathing issues, but now she's doing a little better since she's been sliding. Her lungs have now acclimated to different atmospheres, so she's actually doing pretty good. But now Quinn's Earth is now taken over. It's now under militaristic rule of the Cro-Mags, the Cro-Mag dynasty. Now, Maggie and Quinn are trying to find Rembrandt Brown, and Wade Wells. Well, they find out that they've been taken hostage, or that they've been taken prisoner. Quinn gets into the prison. He finds Rembrandt, but he also finds his mother. That's where they twist it. Another sci-fi element is thrown into the... little bit of a sci-fi monkey wrench thrown into this. Quinn finds out that Earth Prime is not his Earth. He's actually from yet another parallel Earth. Then his family, or his parents, were from Earth that were fighting the Cro-Mags. And to save Quinn, they sent Quinn to this Earth. And they tried to come back to get him. But his Earth parents, of Earth Prime, hid him away so that his biological parents could not get him. That was their son, you know, they wanted to protect him, you know, you can't fault him for that. And Quinn finds out this through a microchip, a little microdot that he places on his forehead. It reads his genetic makeup, so it unlocks all this information to him. And kind of a Superman, Fortress of Solitude kind of hologram within inside his mind. And he finds out that he's not alone. He's got a brother. And what a great way to, you know, right in the storyline, just write it out, guys, that Quinn has a brother. And guess what? Who are we going to cast him with? Well, we're going to cast him with Jerry O'Connell's real-life brother, Charlie O'Connell. Yeah, that's right. His actual brother appeared in the 4th season, along with Maggie and Rembrandt. So we had, and he was Colin Mallory. Quinn Mallory, Colin, yeah, it was a thing. And he actually grew up on an Amish world, but still he had a flair for science. So, well, what happens is they decide that now the new mission is not to get to Earth Prime, but to find a way to defeat the Cro-Mags and drive them off of Earth Prime. So that's a new mission. Remy joins up. Wade was taken away. She was taken to an alternate world, some other prison camp to use for breeding. So that's also another mission that they have, is to try and find Wade some way, somehow, and to save her. I won't spoil it. They do come across Wade again, another point in time, but it's definitely a bit heartbreaking, okay? The dynamic with the Sliders is very different now, okay? Quinn is very much, he's no longer the playful Quinn that we started off with in seasons 1 and 2. He's very more stoic and very more mission driven. Remy, I mean, he was very much the singer. He was all about, hey, I need to get back home. You know, I want to get fame. And now he's the heart and soul. He's the heart and soul of the team. Maggie she's relaxed a bit. She's more of a team player. She still has her military side. And then, unfortunately, again, they did a lot of more sci-fi tropes here. They come across different weapons. They come across the Cro-Mags a whole lot more. It's kind of like classic Star Trek, running into the Klingons or the Romulans. It was repeating over and over again. And then, well, Charlie O'Connell and Colin, or Charlie O'Connell and Jerry O'Connell decided to leave at the end of season 4. I think they felt maybe the show was kind of losing its way through sci-fi. Maybe the sci-fi production, maybe the network bigwigs wanted a little bit more say into it. They wanted more sci-fi, and that probably drove them away. So season 5, we changed up a lot. We still have Carrie Werher, we still have Clavant Derricks. Now we have Tempe Locke and Robert Floyd. Okay. Now, these two, what happened was at the beginning of season 5, the very first episode, there's a massive interdimensional accident, if you will. Okay. Now, she plays Diana Davis, and he plays a character named Mallory. We're going to get to that, guys. Don't worry. What happens is Remy and Maggie come out through the vortex perfectly fine, and instead of seeing Colin and Quinn. Colin Quinn? No, that'd be funny. We see Mallory. Now, what happened is there's this evil scientist named Dr. Geiger who's been trying to perfect interdimensional travel of his own, but he became what's called unstuck. Okay? He's trying to find a way to make himself unstuck. Basically, he experimented with travel, but he's basically unstable. If he steps out of this one chamber that has a special energy field that basically anchors him to this dimension, without that field, he basically would rip apart into 1,000 different selves across all of the multiverse. He would be spread across all these different Earths without any control, without any way of staying still, reaching someone, having any kind of contact or communication with people. Okay? So Dr. Geiger's been experimenting with what's called recombining or recombination. Okay? Mallory is basically an alternate version of Quinn. Looks different, completely different, right? That's how you do the recast, guys. What happens is he's using this, and by the way, Mallory, who was a Quinn Mallory, he had physical disabilities. So Dr. Geiger says, listen, I can help you. I can make you better, which he was slowly, using essences or energies from other Quinns through the multiverse. And he decides, hey, I can anchor him. I can use him as a test subject. And he does. He collides him with our Quinn, and they merge into one body. Okay? Two people, one body. And that's what happens here. So now, our Quinn Mallory is in this Quinn Mallory. And now, since they're a combination of the two, they're just referred to as Mallory, not Quinn. Okay? So, what happens is this Quinn, or this Mallory, his personality becomes the dominant one, but he still has all of our Quinn Mallory's memories, feelings, thoughts. Everything is inside of his head. Not always accessible, but it's there. And Dr. Diana Davis is a scientist working for Dr. Geiger, and she's helping to keep Mallory stable. Okay? So these two join the team, the remaining team. And by the way, Colin is now unstuck like Dr. Geiger is. He is basically phasing through all the different Earths uncontrolled and with no way to track him. So we lose Colin in a way. He's still out there somewhere in the multiverse of Earths. But the series is still moving forward with the goal to try and find sciences or weapons to help free Earth Prime. Ultimately, the show ended in a bit of a cliffhanger, and us fans, we never got a true resolution to the show. Unfortunately, in the very last episode, there's an Earth with basically a psychic, a fortune teller, someone who can actually see the world. And in this society, he not only saw the sliders traveling from Earth to Earth, he wrote it down. This society even made a television series about the sliders. Yeah, it was very meta. The last episode was very meta, but also it was an Earth where they developed a weapon against the Mags, the Cro-Mags, that is. A virus, basically, that humans can carry, harmless to them, lethal to Cro-Mags. So, it just so happens that the sliders are being revered as almost holy idols, if you will. And they want to keep our sliders on that Earth. And it just so happens that there's a bit of a conspiracy to keep them there. At one point, the timer is even destroyed. Well, they can't slide back to Earth Prime if they don't have the timer, right? Well, they come across some sliding equipment, some very rudimentary, damaged, barely being held together type sliding equipment. In a last-ditch effort, Remy takes the virus, injects it into himself. And he jumps through the vortex. That's it. Maggie and everyone is stuck on that Earth, pretty much. Remy jumps through the vortex, but we don't know whether he makes it home or not because the vortex and the equipment was janky as all hell, extremely unstable. We don't know if he survived to the next Earth. Did he make it to Earth Prime? Did he help? Did that virus that he carried in him, did it free Earth Prime if he made it back? We don't know. We're left up in the friggin' air. Who knows? There wasn't even a comic book series, not like a tie-in novel, or, you know, some TV shows, they would do like a TV movie to wrap it up, even if it was a couple years after the fact. We never found out. One of the worst cliffhangers, well, I can't say one, it's in my top 6 cliffhangers, top 10 cliffhangers of all time that drive me up a friggin' wall, guys. I love this show. I love the concept of, we're not traveling through space. We're just traveling. It's Earth. Just subtle differences. You know, you might have it where, what's a good example? They had one where where America was actually ruled by Russia. Russia won the Cold War and they pretty much took over America. There was another one where Remy actually was carrying a child. There was a transfer where men could actually carry babies, and he was actually royalty. There were so many interesting takes on society, very much like the original Star Trek did commentary, social commentary on society by doing parallels with what was going on to the show to what was really going on in the real world, especially with the Cold War, especially with racism. They dealt with that tremendously during the show, and this was a show in the 1990s, guys. Mid-1990s. 1995 is when this came out. They dealt with poverty. They dealt with racism. They even dealt with retail commercialism. There was an Earth where basically the society is pretty much like, if you want a future for yourself, they have these big, mega, super, like, city-sized malls where people live there, and they work there, almost like indentured servitude. Talked about like commercialism, credit cards. Oh, hey, we'll give you this, and oh, by the way, you have to spend X amount of dollars if you want to keep your jobs. Really weird and twisted stuff, but that was the whole concept. Different Earth, different dimension, and by the way, just like you see in sci-fi, like time travel shows, you know, you know, if you go to the past, you can't disrupt anything, you know, or Star Trek, the Prime Directive, you cannot mess with a world's political system, or you can't mess with its evolutionary track, right? The Sliders tried to do that. They couldn't even do that through the first episode, let's be honest. Every world they would go to, they would try and figure ways to fix things, you know, to help society. I mean, that's one of the great things about this show. You know, like, they would find someone who's in trouble, you know, and the thing is, they didn't have any superpowers. Okay, Professor Arturo was a brilliant scientist, but Quinn was even smarter. Quinn was an amazing scientist, an amazing scientific mind, but he had heart. You know, he was an everyman. He was your average person. He didn't have any special abilities. He was a bit athletic. Wade, she was kind of an old soul, kind of 60s vibe. She was very much into believing in anything and everything out there. She's very spiritual, okay? Very free love, you know. She was a heart. But Remy was, he was that uncle of yours, you know, that he had some smart quips, he had some smart jokes, but also he was just trying to make his way in the world, just trying to be relevant, trying to make do. He didn't have any special skills other than singing and, you know, loving the ladies, you know. He always saw himself as not being the contributing factor, that because, you know, Arturo and Quinn, those were the smart guys. Those were guys who could Macgyver out of anything. But Remy was the heart, and you could always rely on Remy. Okay? And they did a lot of great episodes where, you know, you come across your doubles. There were episodes when Quinn came across an alternate Quinn. Plenty of times. There was even a few where they came across a few different Rembrandts. One where Rembrandt, the Crying Man, was actually the king. So there was no Elvis. There was Crying Man. Those episodes were some of the most amazing episodes. Now, as of late, do you see that headline right there? Sliders, everything we know about the reboot. Now, going back to 2019, apparently John Rhys Davies and Jerry O'Connell were talking. And they were even talking with the show creator, Tracy Torme, about possibly bringing the show back. Now, I would be curious to see how they would do that. Because after all, as you heard me mention, Professor Arturo died. At least that version of him. There was an episode where they came to an alternate Earth that they thought was their Earth, but it wasn't. And we had two Arturos fighting each other. Only one of them made it into the vortex, and the other one's like, all you heard him say was, "What have I done?" Making, or something like, "What have I done?" or, "Oh my God, what has happened?" And we don't know. That could actually be the original Arturo still living on that world. We don't know. That would be the one loophole that they could do, unless they retell the story of Sliders. And honestly, I don't want them to do that. I don't want it to be a thing where they're retelling the story of Sliders from step one. I think they can continue it, because this series was just such an awesome story, and I really want them to. I really want to find out what happened to Rembrandt. Did he make it to Earth Prime? That's my hope. Is he made it to Earth Prime? He made it to Marta and all the rebels who were still there, and he helped liberate Earth Prime. He helped free his Earth. That's what I really want to happen. We'll see what happens. But see, that was 2019. Here we are in 2021, going into 2022. We had a pandemic, so obviously that would delay anything from going on. But as from a few news stories I read, Jerry O'Connell and John Rhys Davies were in talks with Universal, which owns the rights to Sliders, because that's NBC and Universal, and that's how I'm able to watch it on Peacock. So, I mean, to me, I loved Sliders. I love Quantum Leap. I love shows where maybe you have a person or a few people that are working to make a major difference in the world, and they're going against an insurmountable odds. They're going against the most extreme odds, and they're pulling it off. Macgyver from the 80s. Awesome. Richard Dean Anderson is Macgyver. One guy using his smarts against the world, and he wouldn't pick up a gun. That was tremendous. It was an amazing show where you try to outthink your situations, using whatever you could find to build a solution. My dad always said, if you don't have the tools, you make them. And that's one of the reasons why I loved Macgyver so much. Just like with Quantum Leap, you had heroes in this case, jumping from situation to situation to situation out of their own control, having no control over it, but relying on their own human heart and their soul. Just, that's what pushed them forward. Like, listen, I'm in this situation, but you know what? Wherever I go, I'm going to do whatever I possibly can to make things better. And they did. They made a world of difference. Well, worlds of differences. There were people that they helped, maybe they helped a small family here, but there were other times when they made world-shattering events. There was a world where the Constitution was like a dirty government secret that nobody knew about. Right before they slid, Wade had little something programs in a computer and spread it across the entire internet, so the entire world got to see the United States Constitution as it was supposed to be, and obviously that had ramifications throughout that world. There was another world where they stopped the world from ending, building a nuclear bomb, or there were different things that they did. I mean, if you're looking for a fun show that will just open your imagination and blow your mind, this is one of those shows. It's a great commentary on society back then in the 1990s, as well as society now. It's great to see how the big subtle differences between then and now are. And I mean, honestly, it's something that I think a show like this, I think, really needs to be in our world today. And, you know, it's, like I said, it's something about it. Like I said, they didn't have superpowers. They weren't trained in kung fu or martial arts. They weren't spies. These were a college professor, you know, kind of a hippie, free love kind of girl who was very spiritual. We had a soul singer, and we had a bright young scientist who, you know, just, he wanted to make it through life. He wanted to, you know, he was struggling working at a computer repair shop, trying to make it to his classes on time. Things weren't always going great. It's not like he had brand new equipment. You know, he kind of makeshifted everything in his laboratory. I mean, even that timer you see he's holding in his hand, that's modeled after an old Motorola flip phone from back in the 90s. Yeah. But I mean, it was a show that it had heart. It showed you how 4 people can make a difference. I mean, they did things that were so amazing, and they pointed out, you know, how no matter whether you're male, female, you know, black, white, whatever race you are, it showed you how we're all the same, and how one little idea can create this big, massive effect, and you can make a difference in the world. That's one of the takeaways from this show. I always loved it. Quinn was, I don't know, Quinn was who I wanted to be when I was in high school, you know? I wanted to be that guy, okay? I mean, so much so that, I mean, I was actually, in my spare time, like, spending time in encyclopedias and looking up physics books. I was heavily into science because of this show. Now, I'm not a physicist now, but, you know, I was reading everything I could about quantum mechanics. Between this and Quantum Leap, those 2 shows sparked my science, my love for science. I mean, I was looking up the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky bridge. I was looking up string theory. I was trying to understand things that were well beyond my scope of understanding. And, you know, a lot of it still is beyond my scope, but it was something that just sparked so much in a person. It makes you want to be a better person. Personally, that's my take on this show. So, yeah, that's my little retrospect on Sliders. So we'll see what the next one's going to be. I don't know what the next video is going to be in this series, but Dave Dimensions, Flashbacks, Sliders. It's an awesome show. I highly recommend picking it up if you can. This is still in circulation on DVD. You can probably find a few loose episodes on YouTube, but like I said, the Peacock Network, you can sign up for free, and you can view this for free. No charge for that. So you can, you know, binge the whole 5 seasons. And that's what I'm currently doing right now. I'm actually in the middle of season 3 right now. So I wanted to share this with you guys. Hope you liked it. If you want to see more videos like this, hit me up in the little video description comment section below. Give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. Let me know your thoughts, your questions, your concerns about this, and much, much more. Like I said, I have a whole slew of shows and movies I'd like to do some retrospects. At least this is my little perspective and paraphrasing. Yes, I could sit here. I could sit here and I could do this. I could pull up Wikipedia. We can take a look at a whole, but I could read everything word for word and sit here and bore the hell out of you guys. No, I'm not doing that. I wanted to give you guys a paraphrase from my perspective, okay? There are tons of information you could look up about the show, all these news stories from all these various websites, but you know what? No, I'm going to tell you from my perspective. This is a show I tremendously love. I mean, it just has so much hope, so much promise, you know? And I think that's something that we're in short supply nowadays. I mean, we have shows like Star Trek Discovery. I'm still a fan of it. Doctor Who, which even that's kind of lost its way. I can't wait for Russell T Davies to take the show back. I'm counting the days on that. There's a lot of shows, a lot of movies where it feels like things are being forced upon us. My perspective is Don't force political ideas or cultural values onto a character or in a story unless it's natural and it serves a purpose for that character or for that plot. You know, some people might look at me sideways for saying that, but that's just my thought on that. So there we are, guys. If you like this video, again, give me a thumbs up. If not, give me a thumbs down. Let me know your thoughts, your questions, your queries. Maybe there's a show you want me to kind of do a recover on. Hit me up in the comment section below, or you can always email me or reach me out. You can hit me at Instagram at Daves_Dimension, or email me at davesdimension78@gmail.com. So until next time, guys, this is Dave from Dave's Dimension saying keep on busting, and I will always catch you on the flip side.